Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is March 21st, 2024, and you are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today, along with Jyunmi, Beth, Eran, Karl, Andy, and I'm Brian, so almost got the whole crew here, we are talking about AI hype versus reality. And this is actually the one person who's not here. This is Robert's idea for this show, and I thought it was a pretty good one. And there's a lot to kind of dive into here. And what I really want to do as a group is, let's sort of talk broadly about like the AI hype cycle and things like that. But then I also think it would be fun to bring up things like, Karl, we were talking right before the show, chatbots, AI hype versus reality, and specifically chatbots and what businesses are expecting versus not. So those are the type of topics we'll talk about. But let's just kind of like zoom out for a second as we jump into this. Things like, I put it in the show description on LinkedIn for it, but like, let's talk about, the AI, the hype cycle. Let's talk about, where these realistic expectations should be. Is there a crash looming? Is this going to be, the .com bubble 2.0 that all of us on this show are old enough to live through and watched? And there was a lot of investment, a lot of funding. We were watching lots of companies go to that unicorn status. I'm not quite sure if we were saying unicorn at that time. I don't think we were, but that unicorn status or whatever the relevant, the one of that time would have been for that amount of money if it wasn't $1 billion. And is that what's about to happen again? Are people going to get disillusioned with what AI is if it doesn't do the things that they think it should do, even if it's impressive, even if it's super impressive and we didn't have it 6 months ago? Are people going to be like, yeah, so what's next? And is that going to lead people away? And in turn, will that take investment? So tons to be there, but I wanted to kind of set the stage. Who would like to jump into this? Who's feeling itchy today and wants to bring on their first thoughts on this?
Can I just want to quickly, when you talked about the things that came out, but will it be there 6 months ago? I think I sent a note. There was a post by Nicole Leffer on LinkedIn, and she mentioned how like a lot of people, still don't use GPT-4 or whatever that was. And I thought I saw another post talking about iPhone to iPhone 15 Pro. We're all like, AI is pretty much iPhone to 15 Pro, not in 2 decades, in like a year and a half.
Are you talking about from like the original iPhone to 15 Pro?
Yeah, the original iPhone to what we have now, right? So that cycle. So for us, like iPhones, Androids, there's so many things that you can do with it now that when the first iPhone came up, there's no way we could have thought of doing that. There's no apps to support it, or just the actions that we take. They don't do that. But it took 2 decades to get that, to iterate. And I think Sam Altman actually talked about that in his interview with Lex Friedman, how they don't want to have mind-blowing expectations every year, but it doesn't matter. It's what's happening. The only unfortunate part about the hype cycle versus reality is that no one can catch up. So the only people who are excited about are people who are in the AI space, excited, post about it, and no one can actually use it because it's either on a wait list or people can use it, but people aren't there yet. Like, right. I feel like a lot of us were 10 steps ahead. But then when the people take 2 steps forward, like anybody else, we're another 20 steps ahead because we knew the 10 steps and we've leveled ourselves up based on those 10 steps. And people can't jump to 20. Like you can't go from iPhone 1 to iPhone 15. Like you can now, but like people can't do it now because you would need to go through at least step 7, step 13. To understand step 20, but everyone is still in step 2 or 3. And that's where I think like that pace is so ridiculously fast. It's just people just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Do you think it's detrimental, Karl, to like, do you think the pace of AI development right now, because it is, well, we would all, the 6 of us would all agree that it's blazingly fast. Now, it's hard for me to take that hat off and put on a hat of somebody who's not paying attention to this. Let's take somebody that is probably not being affected by AI. Like, let's take somebody in the trades like a welder.
Yeah.
If you go to work every day and you make good money and you're a high quality welder, are you Are you thinking about how AI is going to impact your
Okay.
business? Probably not, right? So I don't know. Is this a bad
He's going to take your welding job.
Let's open that up. Yesterday, and I don't know, we didn't cover it in the news, but we all saw, I'm hoping we all saw the Neuralink demo, right? All of them saw the Neuralink demo. People right now, like some of my clients, when I go up to them and I showcase uploading a PDF to ChatGPT and asking an insight on something, the amount of, whoa, that's so cool. That's not in my head cool. That's like, great. But I've been using it for the past, we've all been using it for the past X amount of months, 8, 9, 10 months. Some of these people are just using Chat GPT 3.5. They can't do any of that stuff. So to showcase a Neuralink, we're going from 1 to like 100. And how can the connection between 3.5 to Neuralink is really difficult even for some of us. Imagine someone seeing that and they're like, I don't even know how that works. And then you start talking about LLMs, and then you start talking about like what is that? What are these all things mean? And so when you said about detrimental, I think it is. And let's go back to the jobs. Oh my, there's a lot of like dooms about like, oh, this how many jobs, and all these reports saying jobs, and yes, Andy Gardner about jobs. But I think, though, if you're not paying attention enough, instead of, again, 7 people in accounting, you only need 4. 7, 8 people in marketing, you only need 3. And it's not like we'll fire people right away. It's just there won't be as many positions open because people are starting to realize, oh, I don't need that person. I don't need a copywriter. I just hook up a chatbot to Slack and I'm good to go. I think that's where the danger is, because it's too fast to people to pay attention to every single thing.
Yeah, I look at it as like,
Go ahead.
it's like with technology. I mean, I've been in the tech space for most of my career, and we're so used to it because it's been there for, like computers have been there for 20 or 30 years. We've become used to Windows and we've become used to the internet. It's all happened relatively slowly. And then most people, and I use my mother as an example. She has a smartphone. She struggles with it, but she can use it. Whereas I never would have thought that was possible 10 years ago. But AI is just completely turning that on its head to the point where it's happening so fast. And I think Karl's spot on. Even us as AI geek/guru types, we can't keep up with it. I look at Midjourney. I want to create an image. What I could do 6 months ago versus what I can do now, just in terms of knowing how to put the right prompt in, is going to be a huge gap for some poor person with the first day you hand them a Midjourney or a Chat GPT and say, go for it. And they're going to go, make me a picture or something horrible like that. So the speed is going to be the biggest challenge. Over time, we'll get used to it as it gets easier to use this stuff. But I definitely think the speed is going to be the major challenge for most people.
I want to say, Karl, that you captured the struggle that we have experienced directly, and most people are inured to because they're not diving in and trying to understand and keep up with the rapidly advancing capabilities of AI. So there is, for most people out there in the world, there's no hype really, other than there's something happening over in some distant corner. The welder isn't thinking about AI. But a counterpoint to the whole problem of keeping up with all of that is that AI is advancing to the point where you won't need to understand the sort of behind the scenes fundamentals that we learned over the course of the last year in order to be able to articulate AI against certain business problems, or in imagining and developing new capabilities using artificial intelligence, because agents like Devin, which was just released, are going to have self-directed capabilities. And when you have an assistant in 2026, like if you just ignored all of this hype and you just waited around for AI to get the training it needs, for there to be an assistant which you could talk to like another human and had agency and action, capabilities in the world, that's going to make it so that there's a huge transformation about what can be done by people who have never even bothered to try to keep up with the fire hose of flow. And as an example of that fire hose, I can't keep up with the proliferation of small applications, whether they be wrappers around one of the large language models, or they're really brand new, developments using AI that don't depend on an existing large language model, except in some small way, and actually develop new capabilities around it. How do you make sense about literally thousands of things that are being put out into the marketplace, many of which will die just for the inability of humans to pay attention to them in sufficient numbers that they actually get a sufficient market to be able to be sustained? So,
right.
All of that's going to, I think that's all going to end up getting wiped out to a large degree. Even all the thousands of GPTs, custom GPTs in OpenAI's marketplace, all of those are going to be seconded by the emergence of really capable AIs that can go do those things for you just through your natural language conversation. That's the magic of AI, and that's not hype. That's
right.
That's happening, and there's a reality that people have to address here. And I'm just, my counterpoint to you, Karl, just, I don't know that it's really that important that you pay attention just because AI is going to come around the corner and be able to solve that problem for you.
But if you're not paying attention, you're missing specific, you're missing what I call the procrastination creativity time, right? Like you have an assignment, you need to go do dishes, right? Like you need to go and let it gestate in your head. And then when it's time to do it, you can, you have a bunch of, at least I do, I have a bunch of thoughts that then can come out. If that period is missed, what comes out is really different. And I think it depends what the hype is, right? I mean, there's a certain extent of the robots are coming, everyone to get from street kind of thing, which is a movie reference that's probably very old. Sorry. Hope Jyunmi enjoyed it. That is hype, right? They're not coming. We don't have to get from the streets in that context. Are robots coming as a concept, as a utility? We know yes. And if you didn't hear it, go back to Monday, I think, when we talked about it. Like that kind of stuff. It is there a giant sea change coming to the future of work? Yes. Right? That's not hype. What we predict is going to happen with that can be hype in the flavors in which it's predicted and the ways it's communicated. So it's like, what do we mean by hype? Are we at the beginning of a really huge change? Yes, that's not hype.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I love just on that point real quick, Beth. I mean, you made me think of, I love the way you just said that. Like I had a 3-hour session with a new client last week. And it was awesome. It was me and the CEO. That person had been running that company for many years. When we started the conversation, that person said, forgive me, you said custom GPT. I don't know what that is. Over the course of 3 hours, I not only taught him how to write better prompts, but then I showed him how to take those better prompts and create a foundation for custom GPTs. At the end of the 3 hours, we were writing his first custom GPT to solve one of his pain points for you. Now, the reason I mentioned that, first of all, that happened in a 3-hour period, right? Is because he said what you kind of said, Beth, which is that I knew at the end of that 3 hours that for him, it had expanded his mind of possibilities for his business so much that it was almost like we were pushing the walls. We were breaking things, right? And so he said it, and we joked about it. I said, you're going to need all weekend, aren't you, to like just sit and think about this. And these use cases, he said, I'm going to need more than a weekend. He's like, you've ruined my weekend. All I'm going to be thinking about are the solutions that I can now create for my business. And he started rattling things off. Now, we have all had the pleasure, the honor of being in many of those conversations with clients. And it gives me goosebumps now because there is nothing cooler than watching somebody get it, click, and be highly intelligent in their own right and what they're doing and start connecting the dots for them on how AI is going to do it. But you're right, Beth. Had I called him the next day and said, what do you think? He'd be like, I don't know what to think. I mean, like there was so much. There was like, and I get that. I'm taking months, over a year now of my knowledge and trying to impart it in a 3-hour, and it stresses the system. And so we have people like him who were so willing and felt so lucky that he ended up having the time together that we were able to work one-on-one together. And I agree with him. He said, I feel so lucky. There were supposed to be other people in the group and they had to bail and move on to an April session. So we ended up having a one-on-one. And he said, I feel super lucky that this worked out the way it did. I said, yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here. But it just is a good reminder. I just want to bring out that story because it's a good reminder of what you said, Beth, which is like, we do need to allow people time to ruminate, to think about, to digest, to ingest and all that. And maybe AI is hitting so fast that our business leaders of the world who want to use these AI tools as a solution just feel like, oh my God, I can't stop and think about this fast enough before there's another thing that's coming. And maybe I think the hype machine almost makes it feel like, hey, you know what? And they just back away from the table, which is a problem. I would say that's a problem. I don't have the opportunity to talk to everybody for 3 hours. I wish I did because I think I could do a lot of good, but it doesn't, there's only so much we can do at this beginning. So anyway, I just wanted to share that story really quick.
I think all of us, well, all 7, including Rob, who's not there, I think we've all been lucky in that we've got in on this early and we've had time to absorb this stuff and process it. Whereas, as you say, Brian, you've got that guy there who's only had 3 hours and, he was lucky he had you and not somebody else because you've had time to process it and figure out what's the important things I can show. How do I narrow it down and make it easy for them? I think in the long term, as I think it was Andy who said this, the idea that the stuff that's complicated now is going to be super easy, Santa. We're just going to take it for granted. I liken it to, if any of you are old enough to have ever used an early model PC with DOS versus what you could do with Windows 11 or a smartphone now, 20 plus years ago, just light years apart. But we've gotten to that slowly. I think the biggest hype factor is going to be mostly people trying to sell stuff that the magic AI bot. I think that's going to be a bit of an issue and probably already is for some people. But I think for most people, it's just going to be a case of getting used to it.
I noticed too on any social channel, if you put in things that are more, and I'm just using the content I produce, the things that are, hey, this is how businesses or how you can use AI today, really tangible use cases, they don't get as many engagements as someone who would say, oh, AI is going to replace this. Here's the latest tool. Mm-hmm. Here's the coolest thing that you could do with AI. And then if you watch any of those 3 videos, they get the most like views, listens, engagements. But when you look at the video, you're like, okay, you can't really use that. No business can scale that. They won't buy that. And then it scares a lot of people because, oh, what do you mean accountants are going to be replaced? Or what do you mean developers? Like when Devin came out, the X feed was full of, you're going to have to fire your developer. Like, why would you say that? Because you won't. And and those are the things to me, that's the hype cycle. Like that's the hype. And more people are listening to that. And you're like, and even someone like Matt Wolf, right? Like, oh, if anyone watches some of that stuff who has no clue about AI and then starts, digging deeper, a lot of the content creators are you're like, how, I don't even know what that person's talking about. And then I see 4 people that says developers, marketing people, creatives are going to be all replaced, like, yeah, I'm going to be scared. Yeah, I'm going to be like that's the thing. It's like, but that's not the case, because a lot of these things is just one-off examples that may not even see the light of day. And that's the unfortunate thing with the speed of the speed, and B. And I know why creators need to do that, because they need to get views and clicks to get engagements. But those are the things that get views, engagements. So you're going to have to continue creating that. And no one's telling the story of, like, yeah, that's all hype, but here's the boring stuff that actually can help you save 30, 40%. That's the big piece right there.
Yeah, Karl, I think you pointed out a real good distinction there too, is when we talk about hype, what is positive or negative hype, right? Like, to my mind, when someone just says, oh, hype about something, that's all about gassing up the positivity and the adoption and the acceptance and everything like that. But there's an opposite side of the coin there, right? There's the negative cycle, which is all about hyping up the pitfalls and, oh, this is the dangers and things like that. And, with all things, a little bit of moderation is good. You want to highlight potential issues, and you want to highlight how this is, how you can apply AI to your business or to your life to improve it. And I think that's kind of where where we come in, is to cut through that and show you, hey, this is an applied version. This is what you can do now. And I think if there's any trend that I've noticed that someone who is paying attention to AI probably can agree with me on, it is the trend to make huge announcements and big splashes, but not have anything that can be used. That irritates me personally. It's just
the marketing industry and the IT industry.
Exactly. So can you? I think if people have an issue with that things might be moving too fast or things are being blown out of proportion, let's give measured access or measured steps, applied steps that people can take, and I think that will mitigate it. Any kind of hype issue. It's like, oh, this is what you can actually do. This is what you can actually expect. And then there's a place for, oh, we want to see this in the future. We foresee this coming down the line. So I think it's more, and Beth talks about this all the time, and I completely agree, literacy. Let's educate. I think that's the biggest combatant to anything about this is you see, oh no, X, Y, and Z is going to happen, this terrible thing. And then that gets completely mitigated when it's like, oh, this is how it will actually work. And so once people become more educated about a subject, there's less fear, because ignorance breeds fear. So the more you know, the more you grow.
And it's interesting to see what is being hyped and what isn't, right? There is another hype story about the supply chain of the chips used, of the GPU chips, right? Like, that is a story that is hype. Like, it's a Biden kind of thing. There's like intrigue and all kinds of stuff about, like, there's a limited resource and how people are engaged in obtaining the limited resource, and is it a safe limited resource, all that kind of stuff. Not like it's going to blow up your house, but like is there redundancy in the system that if one part of the resource went away, that it would be fine. Like, there's that kind of stuff. That hype story does not get told very often, and when it gets told, it does not become a hype. I find that really interesting, and I think that's because on the back end, there's no way to expand the monetization of that supply chain right now.
I'd like to provide two examples. One where AI news and hype has not resulted in meeting expectations, and one where I think it's exceeded expectations. So on the exceeded expectations, I'm going to call out video editing and the impact of AI on the sort of creative market out there. video editing, video generation has gone way beyond what I expected it would be, even given the hype. So it's just astounding to me what you can do with that. So there's hype met with reality, right? Video editing and video generation totally, I think, meets the expectations. On the other side, there's really great concern about the impact of generative AI on the education marketplace and on students. And I think that there the hype was overblown, because I have yet to see, and this is an area where I'm particularly interested. You can see my tagline here is user experience design for training and learning. And I have seen some early examples of ways that AI is starting to make inroads towards something that's divergent from the classic one-to-many model of knowledge transfer. But there are very few of them, and they really haven't found their way into the vision of, say, personal tutoring, even though there are some, good examples of that being available, but largely in text. But the personal tutoring vision and the impact on classrooms and educational institutions, I think, is not. That's got a longer lead time to it, and so the hype and the negative hype, particularly, has not come to fruition for the people who sent that out there. One other thing I want to say about hype is one of my favorite and most irritating sort of marketing hypes out there is the Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. There's going to be armies of people delivering their knowledge through our platform, the knowledge, that's KBB something, knowledge building, whatever. And they're charging people tons of money, people who don't really have the facilities to really start a business based on their personal knowledge. And really, the irony of it is that they're really offering a large language model, which is really the source of the knowledge, not the person who's going to make millions by delivering knowledge on their own part. There's huge hype around using AI to, by all of the sort of wealth marketers, like the people who are appealing to people who want a side gig or a wealth marketer. That is so overblown hype. And there's just really no way for anybody to cut through out there in the marketplace using these kinds of tools to deliver personal knowledge in a way that monetizes. So sorry, Tony, but you're just making millions off people's hopes and expectations. And it's an improper way to make money.
Ty Lopez. That's the immediate when you said it was like Ty Lopez and his like stupid Lamborghini, and everyone saw the dumb video. And that's
I've got a photo of me next to Ty's Lamborghini. I actually met him in the States.
So there's one more thing about hype that I think it's even the tools that are coming out from the major tech companies that you can even use today. So for example, Microsoft Copilot, Google Duet, Gemini, whatever they call it now too. I think when those come out, you've got the awesome video. Microsoft and Google came out with super slick videos. Slick videos.
Just not reality.
Love the slick videos, but that's all they give you. And even I'm going through Microsoft's Copilot like documents to try to understand, and it's like, that's it. That's all you got. It's like, can you? I don't need your slick videos. Can you have this really boring video that shows me all these things that you do? And I have to go to YouTube and find people to give me that too. So I think when we talk about hype, even the companies hype something out, then they deliver the product. And unlike other times, they're like, I don't care about that. Or it's not that they don't care. We're on to the next thing because AI is moving so fast. We have to develop. So the education part kind of gets left behind, and it's up to us to kind of figure this whole thing out.
Or it's a letdown, which is kind of what you're saying. So you have a really valid point, Karl. I hadn't thought about this, but you're right. One of the problems with AI hype right now is the damn businesses who are putting out the AI products, because we have seen over and over and over again where something does look very slick and it's very well put together. The Google thing comes up a lot, but others have done it too. And the thing is, the thing that you get at the end is still really impressive, but your bar was set way up here. And then it fails at the top 20%. And then you get this pretty good, couldn't do it yesterday type tool. But you do end up, I don't know, end up feeling let down because I'm like, it doesn't work as fast, or the latency is a problem, or Sora might be an issue like this.
Yeah.
Like we saw the stuff they were doing. Now, the best we were getting is like Sam Altman was like, give me an idea, and he would throw it into like on X, and then he would go do it. And at least he was saying like, this one didn't come out that good.
Yeah.
And what I remember from the early days is like, here's a better one. Okay. Yeah. At least you're showing me that this thing isn't perfect every single time.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely hype. If that's all you set out there, I don't care when they release it, whether it's Q2, Q3, Q4 in 2024, people are going to inevitably be let down. They saw the potential of the truck running down the mountain road, and they're going to go, well, why does my truck have wheels? Yeah. I don't get it. Like, I saw what am I doing wrong? And there is a bit of that letdown. I think a solid point is like part of the problem of this hype cycle are the businesses themselves who probably, we know Google does, we believe Google does, we're not inside Google, are feeling so much pressure to produce something that is out of this world extraordinary. And the reality is it just needs to be 20% better than whatever's currently on the market and usable today. That's what people want, is something they can literally deploy today, and it makes a difference in their business. Everything else is just fancy, as Greg said, magic, because he was talking back in the past about, we were talking about PDFs, and Greg, by the way, Greg, always love your comments. They're so insightful. You said we see PDF to Neuralink as 1 to 100 because we have so much context. To those not immersed, it's just a different magic trick. And I have to agree. I think that's a really great point. By the way, Greg,
I want to say something on this
joke.
This whole hype thing. I want to perhaps maybe badmouth my own occupation, which is marketing. Some or maybe a lot of you people are familiar with a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's supposedly one of the best known social media marketers in the world. And he said this some years ago, and I agree with him. He said, quote unquote, marketers ruin everything. Something new comes out, it's cool, it's interesting, they go hard, they pump up the BS factor. And I think all of us have had experiences where we've used AI tools and we've discovered it's not quite as good as the hype comes out. And so you've got to really, I guess, take a lot of that as just marketing hype to sell something.
Right.
So,
this is kind of the equivalent of like the person who writes the article isn't the person who writes the headline of the article that goes on the front thing. And then you're like, wow, you came really hard at this company for making a mistake. And the article didn't. The article was like, no, this is totally reasonable. We understand. But the clickbait of that first piece. And that's
hey, Jyunmi, I think we know this as gamers. The cutscene and the trailer so many times. It was like,
I don't even pay attention, or I don't even give credibility unless the disclaimer's on the bottom that says in-game footage alpha. If I see that, then I'm like, okay, that's a realistic expectation. Other than that, that's a movie.
It got me another thinking too. So Beth, Salesforce, and going back to the hype versus reality, and going back to the iPhone description, Salesforce been again another 2 decades. Imagine you new to Salesforce having to learn everything in 2 decades that was done in less than 3 hours, like you said, Brian. In that span, it's like, I got an amazing CRM for you, and in 3 hours you say everything that you know that covers 20 years of development. That person be like, that's a cool tool. I don't know how to deploy that. I'm just gonna let you deploy it. That's it. There's no way. It can do what, and that. I don't know what that even means. Right. So,
and Salesforce has this like within the Salesforce community, the people who have access in the beginning, like the movie comes out, everybody's excited. This is a long time before anybody has access. Then some. Yay!
All right. So we're gonna wrap it up there. We're gonna wrap it up there. I think we've done a good job here. It's been really good insights. thank you as always, Greg, for throwing in the comments. And I'm serious. I think we should you have it on the show if you'd like to interview you, because you always have such great insights into AI. It'd be great to talk to you. Tomorrow we're going to be doing our 2-week, what did we just say show, which is basically us going back over maybe today's topic, maybe other ones we did over the last 2 weeks of shows. It's been a really popular show so far, and it just gives us an opportunity to bring back some of the topics. Maybe there's been some discussion, some advancements. We'll talk about all that. That happens tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Oh.